Bernadette, it's always a pleasure to connect with you through this amazing blog that we may get to talk about. And I just want you to know that right now, as embarrassing as it is, people will be watching this at the B1G1 conference, and they will automatically, but deservedly, I might add, be on their feet giving you a standing ovation. And, they will, and I know that's difficult thing, but and there's all sorts of reasons for that. But I think fundamentally, the reason is that everybody watching this is very well aware of the huge contribution you make. So welcome. And this, of course, it seems to me that as I look at your year, just quickly, it seems like it's been an amazing year, right? I mean, the blog won, what was it, the best business blog and all of that kind of stuff. And Meaningful was right up there in the Inc. list and everything else. How are you feeling about all of that?
Paul, they're not things, they're fabulous things, and I'm very grateful for them. But to maintain a sense of equilibrium, I don't focus on those things. I feel like, in business and in life, we can reach for those high highs. And if we do that and we invest our happiness in achieving those things, then we are going to get the low lows. So I like to have a state of equilibrium and keep everything in perspective, right? Because I have got no control over what happens when I put ideas out there, as you don't, and you just do it with such generosity.
Oh, thank you. How do you go about doing what you do and writing these amazingly authentic stories that we just connect with? What is that, like how you look at the world, or how do you get the mindset that allows you to do that?
The thing about it is this: you talk a lot about this in B1G1. We want to change the world, right? So where do we start? We have to start with ourselves, and as hard as it is to say that, and we often don't believe that. So I sort of do what I advise other people to do, which is be curious, empathetic, and imaginative. They're the three qualities, I think, and I think curiosity is something that, we can all tap into, and we're doing it less and less because we're down here on our phones. Don't we think about, we look to people like we've talked about Richard Branson and Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, and we tend to think about, well, who are the kind of people who have great ideas? And we don't tend to think that's for us. If I said to you, close your eyes for a second, Paul, and I'm going to do this. Okay, let's do it. So
I got it.
I want you. Let's do an experiment. I want you to pick, and everybody in the audience can do this too when they're watching. Okay. I want you to picture. If I say the word genius to you, what comes to mind? Okay, don't say anything.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
Okay, just okay. Now you can go. What did you see? Open.
Can I open now? Yeah. Well, I see probably zillions of other people. First of all, I see Einstein.
Yes.
Right. That's easy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The hair and the whole bit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
if you do a Google search for the word genius and you look at the images, you'll see Einstein, you'll see academic scrolls, you'll see all those kinds of things. And we don't tend to think of ourselves as having this genius skill, and we do. There's genius in a nurse who's caring for a dying patient. There's genius in a waiter who's juggling all these different tables at a restaurant. And I call that ordinary genius. And there's genius in the everyday that, in our own businesses, we can see things, we've got the ability to notice things we can affect and change. And we underestimate ourselves. We underestimate our own ability to do it.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you go back to one of the people that we both admire very much, that is Seth, of course. And Seth was it a couple of years ago said, we're now in the age of connection. right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's obviously true. But what I think you do, and I talk about it too, is where I say, well, that's true, but what we've got to understand that it's about moments of connection.
Yeah.
Just looking for those little bits with those curious eyes, right? Is that how you see it as well? It's these
Yeah.
little
Exactly. You know, I think when you think about connection in the modern world, it sometimes gets a bad rap because we start going into this whole networking thing. And I was, one of my sons is looking for an internship right now. And he's at university, and he went to the lecture at university about how to do that, how best to do it. And they said, you know, you do it through networking. And he said, you know, it just sounds the most horrible thing, because you've got to start approaching people to ask them for something when, you know, you've got nothing to give. And what about giving first instead of coming with your agenda and trying to take this? And then there's this other piece around connecting the dots between what the world needs and what you can give, and what you've got to offer, and your gifts and your talents, and what change your business wants to make. You can't possibly create a meaningful business without connecting to your customer in some way and on an emotional level. And I think we've seen that quite recently in some of the horrible examples of you know, customers, that the passenger being dragged off a United Airlines flight. That's zero empathy, zero connection with what we're here to do for the people that we serve on this flight. And we can't overlook it. We can't sidestep it. It's not a shortcut we can take.
And let me just remind you of a couple of things that you said back in Meaningful. You said, and the subtlety of this is profound. You said, our job is not simply to obsess about the features and benefits of what we're making. It is to wonder and to care about the difference we can make to people and to our world. Just amplify that. And the reason, by the way, I'd love you to amplify it is because, you know, if you look at, if you will, traditional marketing, it's always about the features and the benefits, and you know, we tend to get told to obsess about those things. But you're saying no. We've got to go beyond that. We've got to connect in a different way.
Well, if you think about it, how do you design great features and benefits? Well, they come from understanding the pain the customer is going through, right? You don't just sit down and say, I'm going to invent a new mode of transport, this electric car. We'll think about Elon Musk for a second. You know, everything that he does, everything that someone like Elon would do, or Steve Jobs would do, starts with the user in mind. You know, who's going to use this? Who is it going to match it to? How's it going to make a difference to them?
And of course, you know, you're now running programs around, you know, for people globally, which are really forcing people to think about it in that way. Did you find it's like an effort to get, or for people to do that? It's like it's like harder to do this work.
It's very hard because we tend to fall in love with our ideas. And my advice is to fall in love with your potential customer. And, you know, we tend to fall in love with our ideas and the future we're trying to create, sometimes for ourselves. And we need to be excited about the future we're trying to create for other people. And then we can't help but succeed. Our ideas just fly from there.
So as you look, you know, as you look ahead in this period of you know, massive change, what's kind of ahead for you?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I've actually been thinking a lot about here. You know, we're trying to keep up, I feel, with what's happening, or what we think might happen in the future. And I think sometimes what is useful is to think about what's constant, what's not going to change. What's not going to change is people and how they feel and the way they react in situations. You know, the technology can change all around us, but, you know, humans really although we've evolved to be able to do certain things, the way we react and the way we behave hasn't changed all that much in a long, long time. So I am focusing on a couple of things here and now, and small choices that we can make every day towards the things that we want to do.
What I sometimes refer to as the huge power of small. It's so interesting, isn't it? I love that thought. I'm looking at the constants. I love that because, you know, in order to connect, you're right. I mean, if we haven't changed as human beings, then the question is, how do we become more of who we were supposed to be, if you like, right? And the answer to that is obviously to connect. Wow, that's very powerful. Okay, I got two more questions for you. The first one is it could be a challenging one, so let me try this. Because I often think when we finish interviews, I go, oh gosh, I wish I'd asked, you know, Bernadette that question, right? So let me kind of flip that around and say to you, what question do you wish I would have asked you?
Wow, that is really hard. Can I ask you a question while I'm
thinking about it?
What question do you wish people would have asked you? Because you're always on the other side of it.
Oh my goodness, that's such a flip. That is. I think my answer to that would actually be funny thing. It would be kind of what we've been talking about. It's so easy now to to dismiss the ordinary, you know, and not to see things that are really present. Like, for example, I thought you probably had this happen to you when you go to the airport in Tokyo, and you know, you sometimes you have to get on a bus to go from one terminal to the other, and then they put their bags in the bus. And what fascinates me is as the bus leaves, all of the people who've put the luggage in the hold of the bus, if you were, as one, the bus leaves on time, of course, because it's Tokyo.
Of course. Yeah.
and they all deeply bow.
Yeah.
And you go, wow, how would our world look if we remembered to do that? You know, so I think that's the question you could have asked me. But let me get back to the one I should have asked you.
We're talking about connections, so let's talk about. I think you should have asked me about some of the connections that have, you know, helped me. Yeah.
Okay, so if I were to ask that question, what would the answer be?
So what I'd say to you is, and you've touched on it before, and you've mentioned him before, and I'm sure some of your other guests and speakers will talk about Seth Godin, and you're likely going to talk about him on the stage during your event. But I would not be doing what I'm doing if I had not connected with Seth Godin probably 11 years ago. And it started with a simple email, and you know, that one connection has just been a catalyst for everything that I have done from there, including creating a career as a writer and a blogger. And that's the power of one person and an ordinary interaction.
Yeah,
and people might say, well, that's Seth Godin, but it's not just because it's Seth Godin. It's because how he shows up in the world with such generosity, and saying to everyone, just go. My favorite quote or my favorite line in my new book is this thing that Seth writes about on his blog, which is, you don't need more time, you just need to decide. That's the most powerful thing anyone's ever said to me.
Hey, listen, so many more conversations we've got to have, because it does feel like a conversation when I get your stuff. It really does. And thank you so much for taking this time. I just feel so privileged. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.